Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ushma Tyagi and I shall be your host today. Welcome to Season 3 of the StrategINK Digital Dialogues webinar series in association with Automation Anywhere, a global leader in intelligent automation and RPA solutions. Over the next 1 hour or so, you can expect to hear IT leaders and experts share their insights, experiences with, and business benefits from RPA solutions. Over 4 episodes of the current season of Digital Dialogues, our guests will delve into the different phases and use cases of adoption of robotics and automation solutions by enterprises operating in key industry verticals, namely BPO, financial services, healthcare, insurance, life sciences, manufacturing, telecommunications, and government. For the first episode, today the webinar theme is Intelligence Infused Automation, or simply put, Intelligent Automation. That is a successful orchestration of robotic process automation and artificial intelligence. But I'm holding you up, so without further ado, I hand over to Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, StrategINK Solutions, to take the floor and curate insights for you, our audience, from today's two eminent guest speakers, Mr. Tejveer Bhogal, AVP, Governance Alliances and PMO, Bennett Coleman and Company, and Mr. Vikas Mujumdar, Head Digital Innovation and Collaboration, Aditya Birla Group. Over to you, Arjun.
Hello, good morning, and welcome. My name is Arjun Vishwanathan. I'm the Chief Research Officer at StrategINK. In partnership with Automation Anywhere, StrategINK brings to you the whole concepts of how process automation, and within that, intelligent process automation, is often called the very engine at the core of next generating operating model. The last few years of industry have brought to fore the very value inflection that robotic process automation promises for organizations that are endeavoring to drive scale, agility, and efficiency in increased measure. As macroeconomic conditions continue to put pressure on profit, margins across sectors, cost productivity, and unlocking new value are back at the top of the senior management agenda. The next question really is, what else can be done? And to join me in conversation are two very, very eminent gentlemen from industry. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Tejveer Bhogal. Tejveer, thank you. We are delighted you could join us.
Thank you, Arjun.
And Vikas Mujumdar. Vikas, pleasure and privilege that you could join us.
Thank you, Arjun. My pleasure to be on this discussion.
Gentlemen, I'm going to kind of jump right into it. The whole concepts of efficiency today seem to have taken on larger proportions given the backdrop of the experience we've had over the last 7-8 months now. But really, where it comes to driving efficiencies, what are your opening remarks on how process automation by itself can drive significant benefits of productivity and efficiency within organizations? Tejveer, with your permission, if I may come to you first, sir.
So thanks, Arjun. And as always, you are always ready to and raring to put me on the spot first. So, thank you for that, Arjun. To be very fair, Arjun, over the last few quarters, especially during this pandemic, we have been surrounded by various buzzwords and anecdotes, which somewhat relate to the current strategies which most of the organizations are, adopting, few challenges that each one of us are grappling with. And of course, in the zest of achieving one's strategic objectives and goals, we are focused around such initiatives. But if you really look at it, be it the Industrial Revolution 4.0, where it defines that data is the new oil, or picking from your own statement regarding intelligent automation, I personally am of the firm belief that all these pieces, these are pieces to a larger jigsaw puzzle, which primarily focus on nothing but digital transformation. So I think that's what the key is. And fortunately for us, we at BCCL, we embarked on this journey 4-5 years ago, ably supported by gentlemen like very yourself and organizations who proactively engaged in chalking out a strategy for BCCL, towards this journey. And having said that, I think some of the brainstorming sessions that we have had over the initial years paved the way for infusing such intelligent automation initiatives in last couple of years, which has kind of steadied the boat for us, for the lack of the right word, during this pandemic, and has addressed some of these real-time concerns as of today. Everybody is talking about work from home, but we are talking about how we have been able to do remote management in providing the services that we are supposed to render.
It's a very powerful point, Tejvi, because I want to take that to you, Vikas, is, and really what Tejvi was speaking about was this whole convergence of the human capital and technology coming together to form what really promises to be the intelligent core. In that kind of a scenario, how do you, as an industry practitioner, look at the whole concept of process automation infused with intelligence in driving business forward with scale and agility? Because
Sure, Arjun. In fact, I'm just going to pick up on a couple of points that Tejveer mentioned, right? The very first thing was about, he used the word buzzwords or the phrase buzzwords. So I think it's very important not to get carried away. And I'll explain why I'm saying that. See, the concept of process automation started with RPA, as we all know that, right? Now, RPA itself, robotic process automation itself, is a little bit of a sci-fi thing. So in a simpler term, it is more of repetitive process automation. Still RPA, but what can be done over and over again can be automated. It's very simple. AI as a concept, yeah, which is data-driven decision making, really also existed. Now we have fused the two, and we are coming up with something called intelligent automation. So to your question, now coming to your question, which is again very, very relevant, what I believe is that RPA, right, the basic technology to automate processes, AI, which can enhance the basic RPA, and most importantly, human capital, which actually is still required to take smart decisions about what to automate, how to instruct your AI systems to interpret the data. Yeah. So all these three really have to work in tandem. They are not standalones. They are not magic bullets. And the best thing I'd like to say is that I don't think people need to worry about eliminating human capital just yet. It is very much required because we're not there where, machines can do things on their own. So I think that's how these three things come together, and we should not be caught up in one or the other. So that would be my assessment of how these work together.
because Tejveer, I want to come to you with a question that really is burning on everybody's minds and is fairly top of order priority. Is the whole concept of decision making is increasingly changing or has to change dramatically. And therefore, the question being is how can decision making in a business environment, and especially in a post disruption reality, uh, require organizations to rely increasingly on intelligence and automation to drive resilience? How do you kind of look at that whole journey playing out?
So, see, pandemic has taught one thing for sure, Arjun, that technology is not just service provider, but it's a business enabler. And believe you me, today, every CIO, IT leaders across the globe have been working non-stop over the last 8 months to ensure business continuity in their respective domains. And today, technology inclusivity is what is on top of every business leader's mind as to how I can reach out to my partners, how I can reach out to my consumer and address what is required to be done. For example, if I were talking about print industry today, when because we are an essential service, and when we were struggling to distribute the newspaper to each and every doorstep, we came out with the e-paper concept, where let's focus on e-paper, try to push the e-paper to our consumers so that they should be updated on a day-to-day basis. They should be well informed, and that's the word that I'm using today. The well informed for the consumer is also now akin to the business leader. The business leader has to be well informed on each and every aspect as to what is the competition doing, what is the real time information, what is the consumer behavior. Can I work around various initiatives to address these challenges, and thereby using or leveraging technology, can I look at impacting my revenue growth? Can I look at impacting people efficiency or productivity? Can I also look at security? Because obviously data security for us, data is, content is key for us.
It is
And for
bulk
us,
of- it
that
is
security has to be there. So all these things have put technology as the hub for each and every function that the business is working on.
Interesting, because if I were to kind of bring out an offshoot of what Tejveer just said, it is that technology truly is an imperative today because it is the enabler, something that's been kind of established fairly supremely. Is when you look at organizations, therefore, increasingly using the concepts of artificial intelligence, machine learning, how, in your view, should organizations, and we've got a wonderful audience listening in to us today, how do you think they should approach the whole concept of driving not just scale and agility, but also resilience? And therefore, how do you think this whole journey is going to play out?
See, I have a very interesting analogy that I like to put forward, right? Not an analogy, but an example. So, see, in the early days, whether you take banking or whether you take, let's say, the retail operations of, let's say, in our case, we do fashion, right, fabrics. Uh, Systems or business processes were decentralized, correct? Like even basic banking, you'd maintain ledgers, and I could have two branch accounts which don't really talk to each other.
Each other.
Now, that was not a great solution. And then we all got very excited when we got these centralized banking systems or centralized or ERPs. And then everything became centralized. Now, even all the thousands of stores across the country or the thousands of branches, they all talk to the central server and everything is controlled. Now, that everyone got very excited about that. But imagine if you use technology correctly, if you use data correctly, if you use AI systems correctly, you know, we can actually go back to decentralization. And to answer your specific point, that is what brings about resilience, doesn't it? Because centralization is essentially a challenge. I mean, if something is not happening correctly there, it could be things going down, like power failures and systems failures, but that's extreme. Let's keep that aside. Let's talk of business processes. People sitting in the central locations, they don't always have a direct view of what's happening in the remote locations. So imagine if using AI, you could decentralize again. Now you've got the controls, you've got the checks and balances that have been programmed into the system. So it's not that the remote locations can do whatever they want. But having said that, the systems can help them tune their offerings to what their local needs are. So, that's how you can use technology for resilience and so many other things.
So Vikas, sorry, Arjun. So are you trying to say, Vikas, that we should look at a hub and a spoke model?
Uh, See, hub and spoke exactly. Actually, hub and spoke model comes more in the context of transport, if I'm not mistaken.
More
Right?
on a manufacturing or automotive industry, yes.
Exactly. It's more a
Yes.
logistics specific thing. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still a fan of the hub and spoke model for logistics. But
Likewise. Yeah.
yeah, but even expand that to just simply decentralized decision making. To stay on the point that Arjun was making, I would like to go back to that. Previously, decentralization was considered a bad thing and we centralized. But with the right systems in place, we can go back to decentralization. So
There
somehow
is,
cycle
sorry,
back.
yeah, sorry, Arjun. I'll just take a minute over here. So
There's
because
nothing better I could have asked for.
yeah. So, because precisely, what we are also grappling with, because from a print industry perspective, again, we have to have a decentralized, because by the virtue of having multiple press locations,
Correct.
so there are legacy systems which have to be looked upon, and that actually forces us to look at a decentralized architecture. So definitely.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
sorry, Arun, quickly, Tejvi, now see, you will be facing some challenges with decentralization with legacy, right? And even a little bit of lack of control from a central location, which you may be missing. Imagine if you layer that with AI systems.
Yep.
Yeah, you solve those problems as well.
Exactly.
which is what brings me to a very, very important question, which is very foundational to the whole concept of the maturity of adoption and evolution is, in your view, and I'll come to you, Tejveer, in your view, what is your guidance to organizations? And we just spoke about the whole concept of centralization, decentralization, and of course, legacy infra and architecture. What is your guidance on how organizations should approach this whole plan and strategic initiative of legacy infrastructure and then moving forward into the future with emergent technologies such as robotic process automation infused with intelligence at its very core? How would you look at advising folks?
My God, that's $1 million question, Arjun. I wouldn't be having
Absolutely.
this discussion with you. Rather,
Tejveer,
I would be sitting
uh,
on the board of Aditya Birla or maybe somewhere else.
Tejveer, I'm glad you're going first. I'm also very intently listening to your
So, I lost him the moment he said about, the technology, architecture and all, but I'll still give it a shot, Arjun. Uh, so I think I'm of the strong belief, and this is purely basis my limited experience in this entire industry, which is not beyond 2.5 decades, but then it's for me something which is very core to any organization who wants to break the shackles of legacy and look beyond. And that's precisely where we are coming from, because we are a 180-year-old legacy today. So I personally believe, and this is in my personal opinion, that the employee, the people, the human capital resource is the one place where we have to start off with. Every individual has to contribute. Every individual has to start innovating. Every individual has to think out of the box to really address the challenge that we have at our hand today. See, with the kind of cost pressures that we have, everybody is looking at cost rationalization. Everybody is looking at resource optimization. We are looking at intelligent automation. Why? Because we want to enhance our productivity, we want to increase revenue, we want to see growth, we want to address the competition. Now, all of this can be done by the people who have been part of the system, who understand the business, who understand the process, and they are the only one who have to start innovating now. And I am very proud to say that we at BCCL, we have been pioneers in innovation, right from the masthead of our newspapers to the cover pricing innovation to the colored newspaper to the CMYK color combination. Even the four dots that you see, that you used to see earlier on the every spreadsheet or the newspaper, they are gone now. So even that is innovation by one of our own employees, that you can save cost on that. The use of the GSM. So it's amazing, and I strongly believe, whether it is automation, whether it is RPA, whether it is some other buzzword, or whether it is artificial intelligence or machine learning, every thought has to come by the human capital resource within the organization, and that change has to come from the top. The leader has to talk the walk or walk the talk. It's as simple as that.
I'm going to take that too, because isn't it? It's very powerful, isn't it? Is that process automation essentially is to drive efficiencies and productivities, and obviously when it is infused with intelligence, machine learning, it is to essentially create the workforce of the future. But in order to be able to do that, because in your estimate and in your thought process and views and experience, how do you think organizations should go about orchestrating at a very enterprise wide level cultural and traditional changes in the mindsets? Because that we perhaps observe is a challenge to truly embracing the potential and the power that technologies such as RPA kind of enable for you. How do you kind of look at that entire piece?
So, so Arjun, even when we talk of digital transformation, one of the things that keeps coming up is digital mindset, right? Now, similarly for RPA, theoretically, you need an RPA mindset. Now, there's a challenge here, okay, if you get to a little nitty-gritties of the situation. The biggest fear of RPA is that it will replace human capital, right? It is there. It's true. The fear is there. So then how do we get that mindset to change? Now, I'm going to go back to what Tejveer said. I completely agree with the points he made about innovation coming from, and it might get a bit confusing, but I think innovation should come bottom up, as in the people who are actually on the field, exactly the example Tejveer was giving, right? The people who are at the printing presses know what changes need to be made. So to organizations, if you want to implement RPA and change the mindset, get that input, get that information, get the processes, and get the changes to those processes bottom up. All right. Don't, I mean, these are again, like Tejveer was saying, these are my personal opinions. But, and so don't hire external advisors and consultants to enforce things to the bottom of the pyramid. Take the inputs from them. That will reduce the fear. that will actually give you better process automation, that will actually optimize the processes more. And human capital is going to be needed. They are going to need to innovate. And things are only going to get more efficient if you follow that approach. Any other approach where you try to force processes onto people, no amount of AI is going to help you solve your issues that will crop up later. So that's my theory on this matter. So Tejvi, I hope that's aligned with what you were saying as well.
Totally, Vikas. I echo this, same sentiment. And just to share, yes, there would be some, uh, for the lack of the right word, I'll switch to Hindi. कि जब गेहूं पिसती है ना तो घुन भी पिसता है उसमें. So
Yeah.
there could be some impact on human capital when we look at automation. It's not that it's not 100% optimization or rationalization, but yes, it could be a 10 or a 15% where we see human capital getting impacted in some form or shape. But
Impact, really, gentlemen. Tejveer, I'm going to stick with you. Even the impact, really, uh, does it necessarily have to be looked at negatively? Because let's say the impact really is about 10-15%, like you kind of broadly mentioned. Those 10-15% of the workforce could equally be reskilled and
so,
retasked different.
so Arjun, you interjected, and I was about to complete that statement by saying even that 10-15% could be repurposed, could be reskilled, because that's an opportunity. See, we the life of a human being is, it's always evolving. There's always a learning curve, no matter at what age you are. And I think that's the positive attitude that each and every individual has to adopt.
Indeed.
You have to reskill yourself, and that's where the HR department, the human resource department, the CHRO plays a very, very pivotal role today. He, along with the business leaders, have to come down to the grassroots level and convince the employee, convince the user that we are there for you to upskill you, to upgrade you from a X level to a Y level. And and this can only happen when you have a matrix driven organization.
Indeed.
It's a cultural change then.
It is a cultural change,
It
indeed.
is a cultural change.
It is a cultural change because this is exactly what I'm going to come to you with. We've heard Tejveer as well as you hold forth on the whole concepts of driving growth, scale, agility, driving down costs, increasing efficiency, productivity, and so on and so forth. But I'm going to take this about a couple of clicks further in depth. Is with the evolution of mindsets, which we are clearly seeing now, coupled with the evolution and maturity and the speed at which technology is accelerating in its adoption within industries, do you see organizations equally evolving in realigning and revisiting and perhaps reimagining the very metrics of how you measure success in completely redefined realities, especially from the point of view of RPA?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I think we should be quite proud that almost all our organizations across sectors, across sizes are all definitely evolving. They may be evolving at different speeds, but the mindset is definitely there. The intent is definitely there. So that's very good news for all the technology providers and vendors out there. But no, jokes apart, I think there's definitely a change. Both top and bottom are understanding the need for this evolution. The metrics, like you said, are very much changing, right? Actually, first of all, there is more to measure now, or more can be measured. So you've got that as a metric. The second thing is you've got a lot more sources of data, right? So again, presuming you're using that well, you've got a lot more options to measure consumer behavior, to measure process efficiencies, to measure equipment efficiencies, and so on and so forth. So absolutely, I mean, technology and all of these new innovations that are coming up, whether it's RPA, whether it's intelligent automation, people are adopting it. People are wholeheartedly embracing it. I think to Tejveer's point, people are understanding they need to upskill, right? So I think all of these, this is a very, very positive trend, and I see us only going upwards from this point on.
Understanding. Then Tejveer, then if I may bring this to you, is clearly like Vikas has kind of mentioned, and so have you, is that the maturity has certainly risen and a very broad sense of acceptability and acknowledgement is established. What then are those challenges in your very, very wide experience? So Tejveer, I know your experience has spanned through consulting, and of course, now core technology. In your experience, what are those initial challenges that organizations and this wonderful audience that's listening in and tuning into us today should address first in order to truly move forward on this journey in a more confident manner, in a more resilient manner, and in a more intelligent manner?
If I were to use only one word, I would say inclusivity. Time and again, it has been observed that if you hire a third party consultant and try to enforce something on the employee, probably it will, the immediate reaction would be a negative one. Because the moment you enforce itself kind of is perceived as a negative connotation to it. Okay. Having said that,
Laws are enforced.
yeah. So,
These
so
practices are imbibed.
okay. So, see, as I was saying earlier also, Arjun, it is very important that the leader has to take into confidence each and every resource which is available on ground. One has to be transparent in sharing as to what are the challenges the leader and the organization is facing and why there is a need to bring about this change. If you join all these dots, it is at that point in time that the resource or at ground at the nth level will understand, will look at a strategic objective and then act on it. That will make it a more resilient organization.
That is indeed true. Because I'm going to come to you with the same question, really. In your wide experience, given the spectrum of the observatory that you have towards Indian industry, what is your guidance on the kind of challenges, the initial challenges, which normally are the most difficult ones, however small or big they may be, that organizations should tackle proactively to truly emerge on the winning side of what, well, clearly a complex journey ahead?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest challenges that organizations will face is legacy. And I'm just going to say legacy as just that word because it could be legacy systems, it could be legacy mindsets, it could be legacy processes, right? So all the three, especially in the context of IA or RPA or intelligent automation. So I think it would not be really effective or useful to try and do a complete overhaul. It's not possible, it's not practical, and generally leads to several issues that you cannot deal with. So I think the right approach, whether you're whichever of these three that you're fixing, right, is to start simple, start small. Take the low-hanging fruits, pick the low-hanging processes that are, don't interfere too much with your mainstream production, for example, and get those fixed, derive the efficiency from there, and then grow that to start involving more and more processes. I think that's the one key thing I would advise right now, because I have seen and I have experienced that, especially in legacy environments, a big bang suggestion to change a process is almost 100% of the times met with resistance.
Indeed. And
So
brought down quite a lot of time. But gentlemen, I do have a view on the clock, and I do know you have busy schedules ahead. We still have a couple of minutes, so I'm going to sneak in, like I always do. Maybe one last question. Tejveer, I'll start with you. You've got 30 seconds, sir. Intelligence infused process automation. Your one big prediction of how this is going to impact Indian industry in the future.
Very positive. Very positive. We
And
have
where do you think the mightiest impact is going to be?
So I think some of the core functions, backend functions like finance, like HR, personally, we have observed that yes, over the last 1.5, 2 years, we have had RPA implemented within these two functions in a very, very successful manner. The next step would be supply chain. And last but not the least, consumer. We are definitely, there's a lot of work in progress, and hopefully, or inshallah, as they say, in the months to come, you will see some action happening at the consumer front as well.
Outstanding. I wish we could have spoken more on that, but because I come to you with the same question, sir. Your one big prediction on where the maximum impact is going to be.
So, yeah, if you ask me, the maximum impact, eventually, the beneficial impact will really be seen in terms of customer experience. Because everything that we're doing in the back end, sure, people, businesses will see efficiencies, but the real value will be customers will start seeing much better service from whichever business they're dealing with. And when I say customers, they could be retail customers, they could be enterprise customers. But I think that's the end benefit of really doing intelligent RPA, is what my belief is.
Outstanding, but that pretty much is what we have time for. Tejveer, because it has been nothing short of delightful and a privilege to have had this dialogue and this conversation with you. Thank you so very much for your time, and I'm sure the audience has equally loved it. We're now live and we're taking questions, and I have questions pouring in, not just on the platform, but also from Twitter and LinkedIn. I've got a couple of questions that have come in, very interesting ones from LinkedIn. Vikas, with your permission, I'm going to bring that to you. Is okay, without taking any names. One of the gentlemen who's connected with me is curious to understand how organizations and leaders should go about even deciding what the processes within organizations that should even be automated are, with intelligence infused, of course. Because if you'd like to take that up.
Sure, Arjun. So, we very briefly talked about involving the people who are close to the processes, right? And then they could be the ones who are giving the insights. So that's all good. But let's assume we wanted to actually continue to use technology. Uh, so now process automation or intelligent automation is evolving to a stage where by simply measuring the time spent on processes, the time spent on manual processes, it can actually give you back a metric on where you are likely to see the maximum realization of the investment you put in on the automation itself. So I think those are wonderful solutions that are emerging on top of the existing solutions that we have. And I think, Arjun, that's going to be the right approach. They are still not fully available. They're not fully mature for all business processes, but we are definitely on your way. So a mix of, like we talked about, human capital, so a mix of human intelligence and a mix of these automation of automation, if I may say so. I think a combination should give organizations enough insight on what to automate first to realize good value.
Outstanding. Thank you so very much, sir. And I'm presuming that the audience heard that very carefully, because there are very, very important points there. Tejveer, I come to you with the next question, which seems to be an offshoot of this, really. Is one particular person is asking us how to, when you embark on this journey, how do you kind of the initial cost investments and budgetary uh, investments with a very futuristic business outcome, which may not be very evidently clear as we speak today, or as we put down the first buck or the first rupee. Tejveer, you want to take a shot of that?
Thanks, Arjun. I think Vikas made a very important point that yes, investment has to come in. We have to look at process automation and further automation and further mining of that processes and stuff like that. So it will definitely involve a lot of investment. But leaders today have to look at the long-term perspective, long-term benefits out of this entire investment. We have taken some baby steps within our organization, and today, after almost about 2 years, we are reaping a lot of benefits on that. There's the CSAT, as Vikas was earlier also mentioning, it will impact the customer experience. So if you compare the value of the investment vis-a-vis the customer experience, there's no comparison at all.
That isn't really.
It's a no-brainer for me. End of the day, yes, each and every investment that we are doing in whatever function or domain, it will yield benefit in the longer run. And I'm not saying long run is 3 to 5 years. It could be as short as 6 months. It could be as high as 18 months or beyond. So I think it's a no-brainer for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much what we have time for. Vikas, Tejveer, thank you so much. Like I said earlier, it's been a privilege to have spoken with you. Thank you so much for making time out and joining us today.
Thank you, Arjun,
Thanks,
for hosting
our
us.
pleasure.
And to the audience, I, Arjun Vishwanathan, your host, was in conversation with Tejveer Bhogal and Vikas Majumdar. Stay tuned with us for the next segment. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you, Arjun, and guest speakers for an insightful panel discussion on your experiences with intelligent automation. Dear delegates, do remember to fill out the feedback form at the end of today's webinar episode. Your feedback is invaluable as it helps us to improve the content, structure, and presentation of our webinars and virtual conferences. Ladies and gentlemen, our next session is a fireside chat with the senior executive, Mr. Pramod Agarwal, IMEA CTO and Head IQBot Products at Automation Anywhere. In this chat, Mr. Arjun Vishwanathan, Chief Research Officer, StrategINK Solutions, will engage Mr. Agarwal in a wide-ranging discussion about robotics and automation and how Automation Anywhere is delivering enhanced business value to its customers. Over to you, Arjun and Pramod.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Arjun Vishwanathan, and I am now going to, in segment 2, take this conversation, this very fascinating conversation forward with none other than Pramod Agarwal, IMEA CTO and Head IQBot Products at Automation Anywhere. Pramod, welcome and delighted that you're with us.
Thank you, Arjun. It's a delight to be here with you, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely, because Pramod, I'm going to directly jump into this really is because we just heard this very fascinating conversation amongst Vikas Mujumdar from the Aditya Birla Group and Tejveer Bhogal from BCCL, where they really brought out the whole concepts around how to approach the very facet of automation. Now, taking that conversation and bringing that to you really, Pramod, how in your view do you advise organizations in the industry on how to approach intelligence-infused automation by virtue of the superior results that it can deliver to organizations? How do you kind of navigate that journey along with your clients? Pramod Agarwal.
Thank you. I think that's a fascinating question, and I hope I can do justice to this.
Indeed.
Because it's a fairly broad question. I think if you look at the journey that organizations are on today, it's a hyper-competitive space with threats essentially to organizations coming from all corners. And I think digital disruption is everywhere, right? I know it sort of has become cliche to say of digital disruption, but I think it is real, right? And I think corporations recognize that digital disruption is coming, and therefore they're trying to transform themselves, right? And in that journey, given that these transformations have to happen at a fairly rapid pace in order to stay relevant, what we find organizations turning to is essentially to their core, right? And what is the core? Core is serving their customers really well, serving their other stakeholders like employees, stockholders, right? So if you look at the organization's core principles, let's just look at maybe customer experience, right? Today, with COVID, I think customer experiences were essentially redefined, right? And even if a bank gave the best service possible in their physical branch, nobody was going to the bank, right? So you have to come to where the customer really is, right? And what is the way to deliver that superior customer service that you pride in delivering in your bank branch, right? And you have to do that where you're really able to anticipate what the user or the customer needs, right? And deliver it digitally, in fact, in a way better than what a bank officer might do, right? Because you're eliminating not just getting to the branch, but also waiting at the branch, and then the officer basically looking at all the various systems and delivering that service that the customer wanted, right? Now, if you think of the same journey from a digital access perspective, you're really looking at presenting this customer an interface which is friendly, which understands the customer, right? So as soon as you log in, the digital system has an understanding of who the customer is, what the need might be for the customer, right? And once the system knows that, in many cases, system can also predict what is it that the user is looking for. Maybe the customer has recently acquired a new credit card. That's an ability of the system then to say, what may the system offer on behalf of the bank to the customer, right? And then it's not just, for example, if you look at the conversation systems, which are all AI based in terms of speech recognition, speech to text, and converting that text into actionable items that an automation bot can do in the backend for the user. You're not really talking about doing an FAQ. You're really taking that customer request, in many cases, system anticipated, right? Not asked, but anticipated. You take that, you convert that to the right query, you let the automation bot do the job on behalf, which a human user may be doing otherwise in a contact center or whatever, or in a bank branch, and you bring the information back. That is superior customer service, right? So this customer journey is, if you have to redefine that, and you have to get to where the user wants to be, then you have to think of this whole journey where automation and AI come together, right? Where you are using AI not just for predictions, understanding customers, but also for mundane tasks like understanding speech, right? Understanding speech for human beings is mundane. We train in that over our lifetimes. Now to make the same bot do the same thing of understanding speech. What is the emotion?
Pramod, with your permission, I am going to interject because I am going to pick on a few important points and very powerful points that I think you brought out. You spoke about the whole concept of transformation. You spoke about clearly a redefinition and realignment of expectations in industry today, predominantly because of the unfortunate disruption that we've gone through. When you kind of piece this together, how, in your estimate, from your chair, given the spectrum of observation that you have, how are you ensuring really organizations' ability to drive resilience through intelligence infused automation?
I think if you again think of resilience, I mean, there is a view of resilience that what I used to be able to do before, can I just do that same thing, right? In a remote manner, right? So a lot of organizations in the back office processes and the front office processes where human being is doing that job, right? Now, you can think of resilience in a couple of ways. Is it a system level resilience? Is it an experience level resilience, right? So at a system level resilience, all the automation that can happen and which our corporations are doing at a very, very fast clip, they can continue to do the job with a level of sophistication today that the human user was doing, and it is doing it without the disruption. For example, if a human being cannot travel to the workplace today because of, let's say, unfortunate COVID related thing, but the bot doesn't suffer from that, right? So in that sense, there is a system level resilience that the system will continue to do the job that was being done earlier. And it's possible because it's a machine driven, right? And we are seeing a huge demand for automation bots as a result of that, right? So that's happening. But I think we have to start thinking of resilience from the perspective of customer service resilience, right? And I think that service resilience is where the whole idea of bringing AI and automation together is coming into play. Because with service resilience, you're not merely continuing to do what used to be done. You're taking it to the next level in the way that the customer experience and expects it to be, right? And I think that is the major change in thinking that is happening when we talk to executives, that they merely don't want to replicate. That is no longer enough, right? Because it just doesn't work. Right?
Indeed.
We are taking it really to the next level there.
Which is where I'm coming in with a very important question, really, Pramod, and I speak on behalf of this lovely audience that we have here today, is also that I think the fact that the evolution of technology and its acceleration has more or less been established. All the more so if the lessons of the last 7, 8 months were to be of any measure, really. But in the truest sense, one of some of the most important industry requirements today are the need for scale and agility without compromising on security. That's number one on the technology aided bit, but also to deliver superior results.
Yeah.
Now, in the articulation that you just did, how do you foresee this coming together in incremental measure over the course of the next months and perhaps even years? Because the world has really changed in a manner that it's never going to go back to. How do you, Pramod, kind of look at that and help organizations realize that?
So maybe I'll take a very simple example. And in fact, this is from yesterday. We worked with I think one of the top three healthcare processors in the world. And yesterday I was talking to them about this concept around scale. And they were saying that because of COVID testing, they have recently been given a new contract where they are required to process millions of these requests on behalf of their customers, so B2B to C in a way, right? And they need to bring that process online and deal with this volume within the matter of days. Now, how do you do that, right? Now, this is a question of agility because you have a completely new process, right? It's a new process that has to be delivered to the customer, right? And if you think of having the bunch of these different systems today that are all disparate, disconnected, written whenever, wherever, right? You really are expected to deliver this experience layer on top of it, right? Where the process gets done on top. So this is where I believe a new enterprise stack is sort of emerging with cloud computing and utility computing on top of it, which enables access to all these different systems at whatever the scale requirement that might exist. But then stitching this experience together with the help of AI and automation, right? So this customer wants to essentially go from 0 to millions in a matter of weeks, right? So you need to be agile as an organization and understanding what are these different technology components. How do I stitch them together as a process with the right technology, which will scale and deliver, right? So I think this is fundamentally, I think the agile and scrum have been around for a while in the technology teams, and I'm really seeing that transitioning into the business teams now, because business teams have become, in a way, interfaces to digital operations, right? So they are realizing, just like the software teams need to be agile to deliver code, they need to become agile to deliver experiences, right? And in that way, they're able to now think about how do we compose this experience using all these underlying artifacts, right? And that's where I think a layer of orchestration that we provide in our platform is becoming very, very helpful in driving that agile behavior, where you're not rethinking system or application development from its core to deliver every new experience. That was 30 years ago, right? Today you are living in a very, very different world. And I think the for I think we just should think ourselves as lucky that we are at a point in time in the evolution of technology where, whether it is utility computing or AI technologies or automation technologies, and in a lot of ways, the more modern concepts about flat management systems, they are all available today for you to rethink, reapply, and rebuild, right? So I think that's the fascinating part where you can really see a revolution happening in the space from that perspective.
A very powerful point. Pramod, help us address this matter that is, well, of growing concern at a fairly global level. The benefits and transformational benefits of technology are at their very foundation expected to assist the workforce to become better, but predominantly and fundamentally are expected to assist the human capital. With intelligence-based automation, and this is a question that continues to be on everybody's minds. How do you see human capital and intelligence-infused automation kind of converging and therefore leading to superior benefits, finally to the aid of mankind?
So maybe a couple of examples will help. Today we think about, let's say, a doctor, right? If you think about a doctor, doctor today on an average might see 100 to 150 patients, right, in a clinic, right? Now, you present the doctor with, let's say, patient records in any EHR system, right? The patient may have had a bunch of tests done. He might get reports from the laboratory. There might be prescriptions from the other doctors that he has seen, right? Or maybe if he's a referred case, then what does the referee doctor is saying? If you think about the doctor, how much time is he spending with this patient, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 7 minutes, right?
Standard five, I should
Right.
guess.
Now, what if on this doctor screen, you not only had a analysis of this patient's history, his current case, and maybe some possible treatment paths based on this person's history, which is predicted by AI models to say these are the most profitable treatment paths, least expensive treatment paths in case of India, for example, where cost is very important. And now the doctor is seeing the patient in the light of all this rich information, right? Which is all provided to him by AI and automation, which helps get the data together and present it to the user. Now, how much more effective the doctor is going to be, right? Now, think of telemedicine. In telemedicine, you cannot be successful unless you have this, because not only you're not seeing the patient in person, right? You also are living on very, very little amount of data in today's world. Now, the only way to change that picture is to have these systems that can deliver that at a very low cost, right? Another case I can take is of, say, contact centers. In contact centers, what is a agent doing when a customer calls you? And well, an hour ago, I called Citibank as an example, right? The call took about 10 minutes just to tell me that my card was not deactivated yet, right? So what is the agent doing? He's asking my name, he's verifying my identity, and he's going through a bunch of applications, right? Now, what if that was replaced by when I called the bank, a system which maybe through my phone number, through my voice, authenticated me, right? And then pulled up the information even before the agent said hello, right? Right, and recognized from my voice what my mood was, right? And showed that this person is frustrated because he's not able to use a card with the right amount of limit, and there is no problem, right? So if all of that was there, what would be the agent's job? Agent's job will be to work with me at the empathy level rather than work with me by looking at his systems and getting all the information out where he has really no attention for me, right? So you want to bring attention back into these jobs. The only way you can do that if you can automate all of these systems underlying, so you actually have time to spend on that, right? And that's how I think a lot
Time
of this service delivery can
Sure.
completely be transformed, right? I mean, there are so many back office examples we can take, but this is what I think is driving that. Can I really get more humanistic systems in place, right? Today we have systems, but we want to get to more humanistic systems, right? And that's only possible if the system is behaving at humans intelligence level. That's where the AI systems that can work with the human at the same level of intelligence, right? And even, I mean, that's probably a very large statement, but you have to begin the journey somewhere. And I
Mhm.
think what has happened today is with the evolution in the AI, thanks to all the cheap computing and utility computing approaches, is it's become possible to drive those predictions, those analysis, the synthesis, right to the point of interaction in an easily composable way. So then you can build those systems and you can deliver it to the end user.
Wonderful, because it brings me to an important question, really, Pramod, is process automations has certainly been there and been around for a while. And like you clearly articulated in your narrative, the fact is that the expectations from a large swath of customers, consumers, has clearly changed. There's newer realities today. Now, you're at the center of all the technology and all the action that's happening at Automation Anywhere. How are you navigating the acceleration of innovation towards more futuristic business requirements and business needs for organizations in the products and the solutions that you bring to market?
Yeah, so I think maybe a little bit of an infomercial will help here, that we really have a AI driven platform which allows end-to-end automation in any enterprise process context to happen, because what we believe is there are steps where human judgment is required there that can be assisted by AI, and these could be some menial tasks like speech to text, could be sentiment recognition, could be extracting useful information from text, right? And that text could be delivered in the form of speech or paper or what have you, right? So we have a very rich set of functions available which can help you get meaningful or meaning out of data, structured, unstructured, what have you. And any process today composes of multiples of these infused within the overall set of tasks that is process supposed to complete. And then a platform that helps you compose that on cloud or on-prem to make the delivery happen in the with the right level of security, with the right level of confidentiality that a process or the system might require, right? So as an example, some of the banks and the government use cases are delivered on-prem, but many cases in insurance, many cases in pharma, manufacturing could be delivered on cloud because it's a secure cloud, right? So when we are talking to our customers, we're really talking to them with this perspective that you have access to this technology now that can help you do the things that we have discussed before in this call, right? And what we are finding very interesting is that this approach of a platform that can deliver the entire journey from front office to back office with AI wherever AI is required, I think that is driving this change that the CIOs, the CFOs can see is now possible. It's within their reach, right? So I think unless you demonstrate that something is possible, that is doable, you really don't get an executive's sort of time, right? Attention in a way. So I think that the fact that the technology is at a level now where it is possible for the technology to be consumed to deliver the end results is driving some of this change in our customers.
And that is exactly what I want to kind of continue on. Is we know for a fact that Automation Anywhere has a consultative approach within industry. In your interactions with customers across diverse sectors, Pramod, uh, what kind of challenges do you face when it particularly comes to the a shifting of mindset that is clearly required? How
Yeah.
do you kind of approach that from the perspective of Automation Anywhere? So, what really are your views, Pramod?
So Arjun, I think this is probably the question I was waiting for because I can plug in what we have been seeing in the market. And I think if you talk to the executives today, they really want to be able to respond to this very dynamic business environment. And this is where time to value has been
Indeed.
very, very important on their mind. It's been very important to them that they really understand what the technology can do to drive that uh, change in experience that they want to bring into their environments. It's also very important to them to also have tool set that is sophisticated enough to tell them where these automation opportunities lie, right? Because you can talk about automation all day long, but if you don't even know what to automate, because it's very difficult to get that information out of your, say, people who are doing the job. So what we have done in the last 1 year is we've introduced tools and capabilities such as automation platform on the cloud that dramatically reduces your time to value. Ability of the AI infused automation to help them solve the experience problem, right? The new experiences that they want to deliver are now possible to be delivered. And what to automate. So we have now AI tools which can tell you what to automate, right? And I think that should probably be reserved for another conversation in itself. But when you bring all this thing together, I think you can achieve superior business results at a not just a lower cost, but in a way that is actually going to deliver something for you.
Incremental
So I
benefit.
think that is what is changing and driving the industry now. And we see from our competitors and that everybody wants to do what we are trying to do in this space.
This is fascinating, really. But I do have a view on the clock, Pramod, and I do know you've got a fairly busy schedule. But I'm going to sneak in one last question before we go on to the audience for their live questions. Is Pramod really, given that you're neck deep in technology and the whole concept of business and operating model automation, what is your essential guidance to the wonderful folks that are listening in to us today on how to approach this entire journey, because very clearly, this journey is a complex one. What is your essential guidance as a technology practitioner and a leader in how you can give them the confidence and the belief of moving forward on this path to proven success? Pramod Agarwal.
So I think any new technology, and if you maybe think about how the internet itself evolved, how the behaviors changed because of simple things like, say, an Amazon website or Facebook, right? It has essentially gotten into the culture in a way, right? It's gotten into the culture in a very interesting way. Facebook, for example, isn't just about posting your current relationship status anymore, right? It drives so much more around that, right? So if you then think about automation and AI technologies, I think you have to really think about what is the bigger game here, right? And the bigger game can only be driven if you really think about whether you're a large enterprise or a mid-sized enterprise or even a small enterprise. If you build a team of, in a way, champions, right? Like in any new product rollout, you have the concept of product champions, who are the early, early users who are not afraid of new technology, who can try these new things. So to really establish that, and I think in our case, we call it center of excellence needs to be created around these technologies. And we find that once the right center of excellence is set up inside a company, which has the executive support and buy-in, then this center of excellence with their own motivation can then become this knowledge powerhouse that can then become the almost like a flywheel of driving this change across the organization. Right now, it's very important though that there's an executive buy-in. A center of excellence cannot be created with somebody who doesn't really have any influence in the organization. So I think we have found that establishing a center of excellence with the right people, not just designation wise, but people who are truly motivated and who really understand the technology, is very helpful in driving this change, right? And then once that is established, then you have to really pick opportunities and give it, provide a charter with which this center of excellence can operate to then start showing results. So that's one, I think, very powerful way of starting the journey and accelerating on the journey. So some of our customers, as an example, in last 24 to 36 months have gone from 10 to 50 bots to few thousand bots, right? And that is, in all cases, we find there is one commonality, that there is a center of excellence, which is truly empowered and truly motivated to get the job done. So I think that's a very important ingredient of success in any new technology introduction.
Outstanding, Pramod. We are now going to, Pramod, after a very, very fascinating dialogue and a conversation with you, really open this up to this wonderful audience today that is not only engaging with us on the platform, but is also sending us and me the questions through LinkedIn, as well as a few personal close friends from the network who know me on WhatsApp are also sending it. So Vikas Bhatnagar, he hasn't mentioned his organization, but has just sent it on the chat box. He's really saying, we've heard you, Pramod, but this is one fundamental problem that plagues organizations across sizes. This whole point of documentation. And it's come to a point really where it's frustrating. Is there technology available today that can perhaps over the course of the next few years absolutely do away with documentation and make it easier to function with data? Pramod Agarwal.
So this happens to be close to sort of my day-to-day work, because as the head of IQBot products, I deal with this question almost every day. And I think documents are going to stay because I think they're a very easy interface with which somebody can transmit some information to you, whether it is an account opening form, whether it's an invoice, purchase order, letter of credit. There are like many variations, and this is a very easy way for organizations to collect and process data. I think where organizations struggle today is that this volume is becoming mammoth because organizations are growing larger. And really, there is no, no human being likes to take a look at a paper and pick the information out and put it into a system, right? And obviously there are errors in that process. So what's the way out, right? So today what's happening in the document processing technology is that one, the what used to be called as object character recognition or OCR, that through the use of very sophisticated computer vision technologies, which are aided by advancements in on the chip, right? So you have now GPUs available to process these any kind of image very fast. So the OCR technology is evolving to a point where it is learning through deep learning methods and able to get you data extracted from paper. But this data that you extract from the paper or a scanned document doesn't really know what is the meaning of a certain set of characters that have been put together, right? So then you apply a second set of technologies, which is where we specialize in, is you take that character set that you picked up from this paper or scanned document, and then you're able to say, what does it really mean, right? So it may mean an invoice ID, it may be a sentence in a contract document or a legal document, and then you apply a bunch of NLP technologies to say, what does it really mean? And then once you attach meaning to this character set, you can then take this and put it into your next set of tasks in the process, right? So now you can do that, but it's used to be that you needed PhDs to do the job. Today, the technologies such as what we are building in IQBot and various competitors, it's come to a point where you don't need a PhD. Right? We are building systems that are much more business user friendly, which with some training can get you fairly rich semantic data associated with these information that you're reading from these paper forms or scanned documents or any kind of document. So that's what's happening in the industry. And I was just reading a Gartner report which said that the whole area of NLP for both mid-size and the large enterprises is coming to a point where from the experimental stage, it has moved into the POC stage, right? And it's been in the evolution for about 5 years now, but I think the speed is now accelerating really fast. In fact, this segment of the industry is going to grow at least 70 to 80% year on year for next 5 years at least.
Outstanding. And Mr. Bhatnagar, I hope that more than adequately addressed your query, because I do have a view on the clock. I just have one more question. Santosh Kumar asks us, Pramod, is that there is a limitation to the human mind at the end of the day. But with intelligent automation, can the platform, Automation Anywhere's platform by itself, discover new processes from the ones that it is functioning and therefore derive more value from the data?
Yes, so I think there are two questions in my mind that are buried into that. Right? One is it's difficult for a human to articulate what the process is a lot of times, because you get so used to working on the data and dealing with those exceptions in the flows that nobody who implemented your SAP or Oracle or a PeopleSoft system ever told you that these were the paths you have to take to get the job done. The human just discovered it, and it just, in a very interesting way, it just keeps flowing down from person to person to person, right? Now, with tools like Discovery Bot that our platform has, you can install these tools where it can actually observe the path that the human user is taking to get the job done in a certain process context. And it can then assimilate what different human users are doing to get the same job done. And it can then tell you what is the best way to get the job done, right? And then it can tell you what to automate out of this.
Indeed.
Right. So that is one aspect of where the automation is getting automated in itself. The second aspect is where now that you're doing the job using human assisted automation platforms, which are acting upon your underlying systems, using these orchestrations layer that you're going to build using automation platform, you can collect footprint. And each of that digital footprint that you're collecting along in the process, you can then put it to analytics.
Indeed.
And through analytics, then you can derive insights from what is happening. For example, you may discover in a particular process that a particular step, which may be a human approval step or maybe some other thing, maybe you can detect that and you can say, can I now give it to a supervisor to say, this step seems to be a bottleneck, what can I do about it? Right? But it's doing that automatically and helping you become better in the job that you do.
That is so true. Santosh, thank you for your question. It's truly an interesting one. But that pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have time for in this segment in episode 1. Pramod, it has been nothing short of a privilege and a delight in being in dialogue with you. Thank you so much for taking out time.
Thank you, Arjun. I really enjoyed it and hope to future interactions as well with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And to the audience, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. You were with Arjun Vishwanathan in conversation with Pramod Agarwal from Automation Anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment with the next segment. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was truly insightful. Thank you, Mr. Vishwanathan and Mr. Agarwal, for your valuable views and guidance. Dear delegates, we now bring you a short animation summarizing today's webinar episode. Do please fill out the feedback form at the end of today's event. Here we go.
Intelligence-infused automation. What is intelligent automation or intelligence-infused automation? IA is equal to RPA plus AI. Intelligence automation or IA is a combination of robotic process automation or RPA and artificial intelligence AI technologies for end-to-end business process automation and digital transformation. Intelligent automation spans the entire automation journey: discovery, automation, and optimization. That is, automating any front or back office business process and assigning work across combined human-bot teams. How does IA work? During process discovery, AI-powered tools automatically observe work activities people are doing, identify optimal workflows, and propose an automation path. At the automation stage, intelligent automation applies AI to access unstructured information, including human chat conversations, audio, and video. The output is a self-adjusting, end-to-end automation of any fungible business process that helps to reduce exceptions and bot management over time. What are the benefits of intelligent automation? The transformative potential of IA is that it allows for end-to-end automation of any business process, including unstructured processes and data. Organize and process complex data to eliminate errors and exceptions, improve efficiency and accuracy of tasks and procedures, improve customer satisfaction, proactively strengthen cybersecurity for analyzing and addressing potential security weaknesses, ensure compliance to regulations and guidelines, and free up employee time for higher order tasks. How intelligent automation is helping various industry verticals: business process outsourcing for delivering economies of scale, financial services for trading, payments processing, and bank accelerating research on life-saving drugs and equipment, manufacturing for inventory management, transportation and invoicing, telecommunications for service, installation and predictive maintenance, and government for automating processing of permits, licenses, benefits applications, and so on.
That was indeed a remarkably interesting summary of the concept, benefits, and main use cases of intelligent automation. Dear delegates, that's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed the first episode of StrategINK's Digital Dialogues Season 3. Please do take a minute to fill out and submit your feedback form. On behalf of StrategINK and our partners Automation Anywhere, we thank you for attending and our guest speakers for enriching us with their insights today. Ladies and gentlemen, the next episode of Digital Dialogue Season 3 will be on the theme Powering Automation with Cloud. We look forward to you joining us at 11:30 a.m. on 11th November 2020 from a PC or smart device near you. Take care and stay safe. This is Ushma Tyagi signing off on behalf of StrategINK Solutions.